Hello everyone, and welcome to Turnabout Countdown Let's Play. And I got it all mixed around again, but yes, this is part 3! We're going to the second day of the trial. I'm not sure if I can get this all in one recording, but we're gonna just give it a shot, yes? Yes. So I want to point out that I like chapter select in this game. It's awesome! This isn't exactly how I envisioned the second day of this trial to start. But given how things ended up yesterday... Good morning. The mood sure is tense. Not that that's any surprise.
Oh, hey, did you read the paper this morning, boss?
Huh? The paper? That came out of left field.
You didn't read it? Then you don't know the big news. Somebody spotted an abominable snowman way up in the mountains.
Tell me you know the difference between a paper and a tabloid, Athena.
It might show up in the forest where you live, Junie. So you better watch out, okay?
You really should read the story for yourself. I couldn't even begin to do it justice.
Justice?
Huh?
Oh, poor Apollo. And it's all my fault. Athena! Stop. Oh, Junie, what was I thinking? I'm sorry.
What we found yesterday was not Apollo's dead body. Thank goodness. He'd been assaulted by someone with a blow to his head and was lying unconscious. We rushed him to the hospital right away, and it looks like he's going to pull through. But it was still quite a shock to stumble onto the scene like that. Is Miss Wood alright, Athena?
Well, I managed to get her to stop crying, and now she's resting on that sofa over there.
I guess she really feels responsible for what happened to Apollo.
Poor Junie. She believes that the reason Apollo was attacked is because he was helping her look for something in that courtroom.
Oh? Guess I can see why she'd think that. By the way, how are you doing?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. I know you're concerned about Woods, but are you alright?
Me? I'm doing fine, boss. I mean, yeah, it was a huge shock. But I'm alright.
People who study analytical psychology are great at times like these. After all, they've learned how to control their own emotions, too. Somehow I don't think it's as easy as she makes it sound. But there's no denying she's a real trooper. Apollo doesn't remember a thing, does he?
Yeah, he can't recall anything from the time right before he was assaulted. Nothing about what he was doing in the courtroom number 4 or who assaulted him. The doctor said it's probably due to that hit he took to the head.
Assaulted in a court of law and losing your memory at that. I know how that feels. You two could just talk about memory loss together.
But who in the world would do such a thing, Mr. Wright? Ugh, just wait till I get my hands on that coward and hurt our Apollo.
Now, Athena. I thought you said you were in control of your emotions. Let's just focus on helping Miss Woods, okay? But I admit, I'm just as upset as you.
Okay, boss, you're right. Apollo's assailant can wait until after we clear Junie's name.
That's the spirit. Now, let's see. I better check the court record one more time before the trial starts. If memory serves, when I have more than 6 pieces of evidence, I should be able to switch pages with the directional pad or the joysticky button thingy-wee. It's not joystick, I don't even know what it is called anymore.
Earth to Mr. Wright, I'm ready when you are.
Alright, let's get ready to rumble.
You bet!
With everything that's happened with Apollo, I didn't have time for a proper investigation. I can't let this stop me, though. I have to get this right, for Miss Wood's sake, and Apollo's too. It's now 9:50. Court will now reconvene for the trial of Juniper Woods.
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is also ready, Your Honor. Now then, I believe I instructed the prosecution to further their investigation. Were you able to locate the remote switch in question?
I am afraid the remote switch is still missing, Your Honor.
I must say I'm disappointed, Mr. Payne. Not angry, just disappointed.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Haha, looks like the prosecution is just as unprepared as I am. Kinda like my voice today.
There is a separate matter, however, I would like to bring up during this trial.
A separate matter, you say? And what might that be?
I assume you are aware that another incident occurred during yesterday's trial. I'm speaking, of course, of the assault on Mr. Justice in the ruins of courtroom number 4.
Oh, why is he bringing that up? Yes, what a truly harrowing experience it must have been. Poor Mr. Justice. Oops, no, not the save.
At the time of the attack, Mr. Justice was not alone. He was with the defendant, Mr. Juniper Woods.
Sorry, I had to get my stars out. He isn't going to where I think he's going with this, is he?
The prosecution wishes to indict Miss Woods on the charge of Mr. Justice's assault.
Order! Order in the court! Mr. Payne, the incident under deliberation here is the courtroom bombing. The assault on Mr. Justice has nothing to do with this trial.
Ah, but I believe there is a connection between this case and Mr. Justice's assault. Please take a moment to consider these facts. Both events occurred in courtroom number 4. This is the location in courtroom number 4 where the unconscious Mr. Justice was discovered. And as you can see, it's quite close to where Detective Arm's body was found. The question is, why did the culprit feel the need to maliciously attack Mr. Justice?
Why indeed? What do you believe their motive to be, Mr. Payne?
I believe Mr. Justice found something in that courtroom while Miss Woods was with him. Evidence that fingered her as the perpetrator of the bombing.
You mean he found some incriminating evidence?
Precisely. And so I surmise that the defendant picked up a piece of rubble and hit Mr. Justice on the back of the head in order to silence him. Objection! Judy would never do such a thing! She was devastated when she found Apollo hurt like that!
Ms. Sykes, please control your outburst!
Ahem. It is the prosecution's belief that by deliberating on Mr. Justice's assault, we will draw ever closer to the truth of the courtroom bombing itself.
Very well. Miss Woods is hereby officially indicted on the charge of assaulting Mr. Justice.
What?
Why are you listening to Mr. Toupee over there? Although, considering our conversation yesterday...
I think Apollo might have figured something out.
Wonder what it was.
He told me, I'm going to look for evidence to clear your name, Juniper.
Maybe the two incidents really are related after all.
I would like to start by hearing from the defendant herself.
Very well. Bailiff, please bring Miss Woods to the witness stand. Oh, Woods.
I'm sorry. I can't seem to stop.
Miss Woods. Guess she's still really upset about Apollo.
Miss Woods, you went to the ruins of courtroom number 4 with Mr. Justice, did you not? Yes, I did. Good, good. If you would, then please testify about what happened in the court.
Alone with Apollo. How romantic.
During the trial yesterday, I was overcome by a fit of coughing. Apollo stayed with me, and we went to the courtroom ruins together. But then I was called back to this courtroom to give testimony. Apollo insisted on staying behind in courtroom number 4. I swear, I didn't attack Apollo. Why would I ever hurt such a kind person?
So, Mr. Justice stayed by your side while you were feeling unwell? What an admirable young man. I thought his loud voice was his only astounding features.
He may look like a little imp at times, but Apollo can be really nice too.
I hope she didn't hurt her wrist backhanding that one out. But one has to wonder, why did Mr. Justice stay behind in the ruins?
I think Apollo might have figured something out.
Something... what kind of something?
Something to do with the courtroom bombing kind of something, I think.
Oh, new evidence for the case, was it? That's a very big kind of something indeed.
I believe so. He mentioned looking for some evidence when I was called away. Just as I thought, there is a connection between the two incidents. But the defendant has told a very big lie, Your Honor.
What lie is that?
When she learned Mr. Justice would be looking for evidence, she attacked him. She attacked him to give herself the chance to destroy that evidence. No, I never... Miss Woods repaid Mr. Justice's kindness with violence. We found the proof of her foul deed there in the courtroom ruins.
Oh. What on earth?
Do you see? There, in front of Mr. Justice's right hand.
Oh, come on, you guys. How many times have we had, written out names and they were all false?
Witness the message he left us.
It's written in blood. W-O-O-D-S? Why, isn't that...
That's right, Your Honor. It says Woods in capital letters. That what? I submit that Mr. Justice left us with the name of his attacker before he fainted. No, that can't be true. Why would Apollo write my name?
Mr. Wright! The nerve of him leaving that message! Why would he do this? Hey, don't take it out on me! I don't understand it any more than you do. When we discovered Apollo yesterday... Apollo!
No!
Ah! We didn't even have a chance to rush over to him. As soon as security heard Athena scream, we ran in and cordoned off the area. After that, they were in the courtroom number 4 with Apollo the whole time. We couldn't investigate anything ourselves and had to leave everything to the police. Still, I never thought they would find some bloody writing there. Now then, please begin your cross-examination, Mr. Wright. As I yawn obnoxiously, and I probably made everyone else yawn who's watching this video. We're going to press on this statement where... this one, the second statement. Let's press. Why exactly did you go to the courtroom ruins?
We went to look for my medicine. To stop my coughing.
Your medicine? Why would your medicine be in courtroom number 4?
I dropped it in the heat of the moment. Boomrat Briny. He was keeping my medicine safe for me. He has a little compartment that I can put things in, you see?
And Phony Fandy has the same type of pocket. That's where the bomb was inserted.
I had put my medicine for my coughing fits inside Boomrat Briny. When I told Apollo about it, he said he'd help me go look for him. There was so much rubble in there. I was worried, but there was no rubble or anything in front of the witness stand. So when we got inside, Apollo went straight there and started looking for my Riney in that area. It was so nice of him to do that for me, in spite of all of his injuries. Apollo is so strong and kind, just like the trees of the forest.
The way she makes him sound, you think Apollo was some kind of an ancient god. Oh, wait. Yeah! So that's why you went to the ruins. I see. That seems to be quite an important fact. Please add it to your testimony, Miss Woods.
Apollo started looking for Boomerang Briny to the witness stand, where there was no rubble.
Well, that's kind of a contradiction, so we are going to present something here.
Objection!
The courtroom diagram thingy. So he started his search with the witness stand, you say?
That's right. I guess maybe he wanted to start from the furthest point in the room. He was being so brave and strong.
But that's odd. Under the circumstances, he shouldn't have been capable of that.
But he was, and he still is. He might not look it, but he really is brave and kind too.
No, that's not the part I'm finding fault with. Someone has a crush on Apollo. What you are claiming is something that no one should have been able to do. But I think that anyone can be brave and kind if they wanted to be, Mr. Wright. True, anyone can be brave and kind, but if you would please take a look at this diagram. With the courtroom in this state, how was it possible to walk up to the witness stand?
Oh!
I see your point. The rubble blocks off access to the area around the witness stand.
Does such a tiny inconsistency even matter? Perhaps the witness is simply misremembering it.
Ugh. Great, now I'm not sure if it matters.
A real man doesn't make mountains out of molehills, you know.
But that's precisely what Mr. Wright does best. I call slander, Your Honor. So, was it really impossible to approach the witness stand? I have to say it's a bit hard to tell with any accuracy from just this diagram. Mr. Payne, do you have any other photos of the crime scene?
Let me see, Your Honor. Ah, yes, I have more. Here it is. It's a more pulled-back version of the photo I presented before.
Thanks for the record. Huh? What's that hunk of metal on the wheels? Mr. Payne, is the metallic object in that photo Mr. Tonate's bomb transport case?
That's right. And is there some problem?
Oh, yes, the transport case was there in courtroom number 4 when the bomb went off. It must have been there ever since.
Oh, that's it!
Miss Woods, have you remembered something?
Yes, I just realized. Its position. It's different from before.
Its position? The position of what?
The position of that big metal thing.
The bomb transport case?
Yes. When Apollo and I went there, it was in a different place. Where the cases in the photo was open space, so it was easy to search the stand.
I see. So where was the transport case when you and Mr. Justice saw it?
As I recall, I think it was more to the right.
To the right? Then that means... In that case, the case was over there at the time of Apollo's attack?
Who cares where the transport case was when? What difference does it make? It has nothing at all to do with what we were talking about.
Objection!
Where the transport case was has everything to do with this discussion. In fact, it's so important that it's enough to turn the prosecution's argument on its ears.
What?
Well, that certainly sounds very relevant indeed, and you sound as though you know where the case was at the time of the attack. Yes, Your Honor. This diagram represents the crime scene as shown in the photo. And this is where the transport case was at the time of the assault on Mr. Justice. Alright, I have this. The bomb transport case was here at the time of Apollo's attack. Right on top of the words. Table smash! Or death smash! Your Honor, I assert that this is where the transport case was at the time of the assault.
But that's
inconceivable! Miss Woods, was this where the transport case was when you saw it?
Yes, that's where it was.
Thank you, Miss Woods. I'm sure the court has noted on an interesting fact about this position.
That transport case covers up the writing in blood.
Exactly. If the transport case was in that position at the time of the assault, then no message could have been written there because the case was in the way. Which leads us to conclude that Mr. Justice couldn't have left that bloody writing.
Why should we believe the defendant's claim that the case was in a different position? She's obviously lying.
Objection!
The fact that the case was moved after the assault on Mr. Justice is proved by more than Miss Wood's testimony alone.
What? And where is this proof you're talking about?
It's right here in the crime photo.
I'm keen to see this proof myself, Mr. Wright. What in this photo indicates that the transport case was moved after the assault?
I know people have a lot of trouble with this one, but you just gotta highlight right there, over the bandages. Please take a look at the mark that runs over Mr. Justice's bandage here.
I see it, but what is it?
This mark was made by one of the casters from the transport case carrying the bomb. As the case was moved, it ran over his bandages. In other words, the transport case was originally to the right of Mr. Justice. Then after Mr. Justice was assaulted, the transport case was moved.
What?
Just as Mr. Woods said, the case was covering the writing at the time of the assault. Therefore, it was impossible for Mr. Justice to have left that message in blood.
No!
Gasp in pain.
You did it, boss! It was a real nail-biter, but you pulled it off!
Yep, that should bring down the prosecution's claim like a house of cards.
Order! Order! Order in the court! Mr. Wright, that was a very clever deduction.
Aw, it was nothing, Your Honor. Nothing but pure genius. Take that!
Boss, I'm sensing a definite smug and braggy vibe coming off of you. Ugh.
I have just one question, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor?
If Mr. Justice didn't leave this message in blood, then who did?
Huh?
What?
Oh. Well, looks like I should have taken that train of thought through to the last station.
Well, I've heard a lot about this. So this is Mr. Wright's famous bluffing technique, is it?
Ah, this feeling, it brings back memories of the old days. Back when you carved out a name for yourself by bluffing your way through thick and thin.
Gee, Mr. Wright, the judge kinda makes you sound no better than a 2-bit con man. You made your argument with such confidence, Mr. Wright. Now I'd like to hear your answer with just as much confidence.
Hey, until the judge asked a question, you didn't catch on either, Buster.
What now, boss? I hope you didn't bluff your way into a corner.
Think, Phoenix, think. There must have been a way through this. There must be a way through this. I have to dig my way to the truth somehow. Who could have written that message in blood?
Someone else.
If it wasn't Apollo, who could have left the bloody message? Who could have left the bloody message? Mr. Candace Arm. Miss Candace Arm. To be honest, I don't actually have any real proof of this. But I've come this far. There's no turning back now. Besides Apollo, there was one more person who shed blood at this crime scene.
A person who shed blood? You don't mean...
Oh, but I do. I believe it was Candace Arm who left behind this message in blood.
What?
Nani?
What? Detective Arm? Are you sure you know what you're doing here?
Not really.
of a ridiculous assertion is that? If he had said the attacker left a message to throw people off, it might have made sense.
At first glance, that would seem to be the reasonable explanation. However, Apollo didn't shed enough blood to write such an extensive message.
Uh-oh.
Ah, I see. Even the photo makes it clear there wasn't enough blood to write all those letters. And Mr. Justice did survive. I suppose he did bleed very extensively in that case.
But why would Detective Arm write the defendant's name? There is no connection between the two whatsoever. And I didn't even know the lady who was killed. I admit that the investigation didn't turn up any connection between the victim and the defendant. They had never even met each other.
That's very true. Well then, let's see. Then maybe the intended meaning of the message is not what it appears to be.
The intended meaning?
Not what it appears to be?
Maybe the message was not intended to be Woods.
Coming from you, that's quite the bold statement, Mr. Wright. You wish to assert that this bloody writing could have some other meaning.
Yes, Your Honor. For something I pulled out of a wormhole, it could turn out to be true, right?
It clearly says Woods, as anyone can plainly see. What other meaning could it possibly have?
But Candace Arm was a detective. Maybe Woods only means something to the police, like a police scanner code, for example.
I didn't think of that.
Heh. You may have tricked His Honor, but you'll never get the best of me. I have a thing for studying on the weekends, as you may have already guessed. And there is no such radio code as Woods in this state, dear Mr. Wright.
Is that a fact? Is that a fact?
Don't look at me. I know as much as you about police codes.
Enough of this. I was quite taken with the defense's new theory. But if they can't substantiate it with anything, then I must end things here.
No, please wait, Your Honor.
Very well, but before we discuss this theory any further, I demand a plausible explanation. If Mr. Wright, Mr. Wright, what is the true meaning of the bloody writing?
Well, I believe it's...
And no stalling. If you can't come up with an answer quickly, I will declare this discussion officially over.
I'm in trouble now. What other meaning could it have besides the obvious one? Maybe it means something in another language? Or maybe it's a code. I think, Phoenix, you can do this.
Which piece of evidence will tell us what the word Woods really means?
The transport case.
The bomb transport case? I've about had it up to here with your shenanigans, Mr. Wright.
Take a look at the numbers on this case, Your Honor. L10015R. Does this string look vaguely familiar?
L100... What does that have to do with anything?
What could those numbers possibly have to do with the case at hand?
Now please take a look at the bloody writing shown in the crime photo.
Oh, I see it!
That a girl. That's one on my side.
It says Woods.
Or you could say it's a horse of a different color, Your Honor. The first character isn't a W, it's actually an L and a 1. The next two are zeros.
Oh, my goodness.
The true meaning behind the bloody writing isn't Miss Wood's name. It's the number engraved on this bomb transport case.
What are you talking about? The next part doesn't make any sense. The next number is a 1, but the bloody writing says D.
But the number on the case and the bloody writing can be made to match up quite easily. This is how the number on the transport case can be made to match the bloody writing. We erase 2 lines. Please erase the third downward stroke of the W and the curved part of the D.
Well, would you look at that? Louis?
No, Your Honor. It isn't meant to be read as a word. It's the number L10015, which, if you take away the final R, is the exact same number that's on the bomb transport case.
Erase 2 lines and they match up, you say. Well, I could change anything into anything else simply by erasing 2 lines. What if we erase 2 lines from your name? Would you be happy as Mr. Rye?
Well, would you be? Would you, Mr. Rye?
The only right spelling is right! Okay, I'm doing pretty well here, and I think I've drawn the right conclusion. Detective Arm's real message to us is the bomb transport case number. Your Honor, the 2 lines were added by the real culprit to intentionally mislead people.
What?
The original message Detective Arm left behind was the transport case number, but whoever assaulted Apollo changed the message.
If you're right, boss, then what do you suppose Detective Arm was trying to tell us?
Good question. What does this number represent? Do you see this number here? That is my identification number. Candace Arm lost her life in the courtroom bombing. Her dying message could only have had one purpose.
No!
Tell us the name of the one... To tell us... Wow, I ruined that. To tell us the name of the one responsible for the bombing.
Well, don't keep us in suspense, Mr. Wright. Tell us who she was trying to name.
The culprit that the victim was trying to identify is none other than... The defense wishes to indict Mr. Ted Tonate on the charge of the courtroom bombing.
Ted Tonate?
Apparently, disabling bombs is Mr. Tonate's only specialty. Somehow the victim must have realized that he was the bomber. So when she was caught in the blast, she left his bomb transport case number as her dying message. She used Mr. Tonate's own ID number to finger him for the crime.
Why would anyone go out of their way to write an ID number? Wouldn't they simply write that person's name?
He's got a good point there.
What do you have to say to that, Mr. Wright?
That only Detective Arm would know the answer to that, but allow me to offer a theory. Perhaps Detective Arm couldn't recall Mr. Tonate's name in the heat of the moment. As I recall, this was the first meeting between the two. It's entirely possible they wouldn't have been familiar with each other.
Or maybe using the ID number was a way to hide its true meaning from the real culprit,
thus lowering the odds that they would erase the bloody writing. But no matter what the reason, the important thing is the meaning behind her message. The fact remains she wrote Mr. Tonate's ID number.
Now, just one moment here. There hasn't been any proof yet that it was indeed Detective Arm who wrote it. The bloody writing wasn't found during the investigation after the blast. If Detective Arm had left the message, it should have been found at that time.
Naturally, Mr. Tonate hid it before anyone could discover it. And there's a simple explanation for how he was able to do so.
What?
Mr. Tonate was able to cover the message because he's the first to find the body. The first person to discover the bloody writing, was Mr. Tonate himself. I was the first one on the scene after the explosion. I went there to ensure safety, but I ended up discovering a dead body. When Mr. Tonate saw that the victim had written his ID number, he used the bomb transport case to cover up the bloody writing as a stopgap measure.
Oh, so that's why the message in blood was under the transport case.
He didn't have enough time to try and scrub away the writing. If he didn't report the body right away, he would look suspicious. So those letters lived on to serve another function, when Mr. Tonate used them in another incident.
Oh, the assault on Mr. Justice.
Exactly. Mr. Tonate hit upon the plan to use the bloody writing for his own purpose. So he didn't clean it away. Instead, he made it look like Mr. Justice wrote it, by adding 2 lines to the writing that Detective Arm left behind. He changed the meaning of the message. He made it look like Mr. Justice was accusing Miss Woods of the attack.
So that means...
The only person who could have altered the bloody writing was the courtroom bomber, who was the same person that assaulted Mr. Justice. And that person is Ted Tonate! Ah!
Order in the court! Order, I say! It looks like we will have to hear from the bomb specialist himself. Mr. Payne, please have Mr. Tonate take the witness stand.
And we're going to end that recording here. The next one will be covering Mr. Ted Tonate, and we're going to reveal his crimes. See you next time!